Ross in Oklahoma and Lucy as well, of course. Thanks both very much for the time being.
The time now is creeping up to 6:20, and it's David Cameron said that they should stay in their own country to help rebuild it. But Afghan interpreters will now be offered the chance to settle here in Britain.
Yes, around 600 interpreters who risk their personal safety to work with UK forces could be eligible. Our political editor, Sue James. 6:20, the headlines this morning. Rescue workers in Oklahoma say that now, half of all crime in England and Wales is booze-related and costing taxpayers £7.6 billion a year, according to a report out today.
Well, Nick Dixon's at a police station in County Durham this morning, and some shocking findings from police officers there, Nick. Thanks very much, Nick, and in fact we'd like to hear from you on this. What are your experiences of alcohol and crime? Have you ever been a victim of an alcohol-related attack? And if so, perhaps you think that cheap booze is to blame.
Maybe you don't. Maybe you think it's just masking other problems. Let us know your thoughts on email, Twitter or Facebook. Or if you're over 18, you can text us, of course. 67890 is the number. Text costs 25p plus your standard network charge. Get your comments in before 8 o'clock, please.
Well, the Labour leader Ed Miliband will today challenge Google on its tax affairs in Britain.
He'll use a speech at an event that's being held by the corporation, actually, to say that Google shouldn't be going to extraordinary lengths to avoid paying its taxes. Shadow Business Secretary Chuka Amuna joins us now. Good morning to you, Chuka.
Good to be here.
Should companies be forced to pay more taxes? Because at the moment, they're not evading tax, are they? They're just being clever about paying tax.
Well, they should comply with the law. They should pay the tax
that
the law
aren't they?
requires. But the problem is, what we see them do is artificially reduce their tax bill. And look, I mean, this is a serious issue because, if you like, business and society, we're mutually dependent. We depend on each other. Business depends on us to provide the talent, the people who work in their businesses, to provide the custom, and particularly in the case of Google, to provide the digital infrastructure so that we can all go and use Google at home on our desktops. And, of course, we depend on them to provide wealth, prosperity, jobs. And if one actor in that relationship doesn't meet its obligations, then the whole system can fall apart. And this is why it's so important. And not least, actually, I tell the people who really get annoyed by this, in particular the country's small businesses. I mean, the vast majority of businesses do make a massive contribution. In 2010-11, it was estimated they made a contribution of £163 billion. Now, that's the equivalent of the defence, education and transport budgets put together. And they look on, when they're making that big contribution at these large companies, and think, hang on, this simply is not fair or acceptable.
This has been going on, though, hasn't it, for a long time? I mean, did Labour do enough when Labour were in power to stop this happening and close these loopholes?
Well, look, I mean, you're constantly, if you like, running up a down escalator in some respects when you're trying to tackle this. But we did do things, and actually the National Audit Office showed that some of the transparency requirements we put in place led to an extra £12 billion a year being collected by the Exchequer. I think, look, the government needs to do a number of things, and I'm not here to play party politics, but it doesn't help if you massively cut back by 10,000 people, the people who work in HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, and look at how we can collect these taxes. You don't help matters if you don't ensure that companies comply with good rules that you've got in place, which is that they have to disclose to Companies House which foreign companies they've got. They're not properly enforcing that at Companies House, for example. So there are lots more things the government can do, and at the moment it gives the impression of just shrugging its shoulders, if you like.
You hit the nail on the head. These are foreign companies.
Yes.
They're global multinationals. They don't have to do any business here if they don't want to. And if we alienate them by bringing harder tax rules, they'll just take their business elsewhere, won't they?
Well, I think this is why it's absolutely crucial that we seek to reach international agreement with our international partners.
Even our own neighbours in Ireland have made it more attractive for companies to be based there with lower corporate tax rates.
Yes, and that's why we do need to reach agreement with them, because in some senses, none of the governments around the world do well if there is a race to the bottom in terms of the amount of tax that is paid.
I'm sure more of these big companies are going to come out of the woodwork over the coming months.
Indeed.
I'm sure you'll be back, but nice to see you.
Thank you.
Good coming in this morning.
Thanks, Sugar. OK, it's 6:26. This morning, 55 of our beaches have met tough new EU standards, I'm happy to say, to receive a Water Quality Blue Flag Award. Laura's here now with all the details. Should have your swimming costume on, Laura.
Yeah, always. Doesn't matter whatever the weather, we always want to see those legs.
Rescue workers in Oklahoma say that the search for survivors after the giant tornado which killed 24 people is nearing an end. Lucy Watson has the very latest from the scene.
America's ravaged heartland.
Around 600 Afghan interpreters who risked their lives to help British troops are to be given the right to live here in the UK.